welcome. We are super excited to be with you today as we ask the age-old question. Since the beginning of time, should agencies be using page builders? Now, this is a pretty heavy conversation because let's face it, we all feel like we're kind of cheating when we use a page builder. Maybe you don't.
I don't.
But I know, as a developer who used to be a bit of a snob back in the day when I used to use Notepad, page builders, front page, especially in the late 90s, etc., were taboo. They felt like cheating, and I was ridiculously scared. Before we continue, let me introduce who we have here. We've got Jan. He is an age-old web developer, a lot older than he looks, and he's also a virtual summit genius, somebody that you should be connecting with. We also have Peacher, who knows everything there is to know about design and UX. As far as I'm concerned, she is absolutely awesome, and I listen to everything she says and does do everything that she says. We've got myself, I'm the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast, and I'm an agency owner. And we also have, in true Oscar style, Brent, who couldn't make it today, and we actually are going to kick off right now with a short video where Brent introduces himself and shares his experiences of page builders. Then we'll all get back together. Roll tape.
Hey, what's up, fellow Cloudways Mavericks? Brent Weaver here, and I'm excited to be jumping into this conversation about page builders today. It kind of brings me back to when the first WYSIWYG editors and even content management systems came out, that there was this fear that this tool was going to make web designers and web developers obsolete. And if anything, all of those things, right, we all know now looking back, created massive adoption of people using their websites more and more as centerpieces to how they're communicating with the world about their business. And so when I look at page builders, there are some cons that at least I see to page builders and agencies specifically using page builders. But I think the pros outweigh the cons in a big way. And I think history tells us that there's probably not a lot to be feared about page builders and maybe giving your clients access to a page builder and training them on how to use a page builder. I mean, I think the big con that we have or downside is that we're going to give our client access to this tool and they're going to stop requesting us to build things on their website because they're just going to have the ability to create these more dynamic pages on the website themselves. Then we can also get into some of the more like detailed stuff around page builders. Is it machine generated code? Is it going to be something that's optimized? Is it going to still maintain the same structure in terms of SEO and accessibility, right? I mean, there's definitely some things that as an agency owner, if you are going to let your clients build on their own using a page builder or use a page builder internally, that you definitely need to take some time and look at. But I think the major pros to page builders is that it's giving your client a tool to create more with their website. And the more your clients are creating with their websites, the more they're going to need you for bigger and cooler things with their websites. Instead of calling you and asking you to build, some basic pages on their website or updating your offer or making really, beautifully designed offer pages, they're going to hopefully engage you for more meaningful activities. I know for me personally, as a client of an agency, multiple agencies, when I'm building stuff for you gurus, it's really nice to be able to go in and create, landing pages, lead magnets, offer pages, without having to work with, having to put that in the queue of my designers and developers who are always really busy people. So asking them to, hey, make some quick update to my site or add a new page can sometimes take days or weeks to turn around. And so I think giving clients more tools to create and having those tools be optimized and created in a way that's going to drive performance to their website is a huge win-win. One of the other cool use cases I see with page builders is changing the way that agencies produce deliverables for clients. It used to be that, when your client wanted to build a new page on the website, you had to go and create all the content, and then you had to get the content to a designer, and the designer creates the page. And then once everybody approves it and says, okay, we're all good, then the designer gets that to the developer, right? And if we're in the development stage and somebody says, hey, I want the design to change to this, right? Everybody kind of freaks out. Or if they want the content to change, wait, you didn't tell us that you wanted, a headline or a subheadline, again, down the page or whatever. And so I think what's cool for agencies with page builders is that it can change your entire build process paradigms with clients. And what I mean by that is you can actually start to build live with clients. And this is one of the most fun things that I even do with some of my coaching clients is when we're building, when somebody's like, oh, I don't know how to build a landing page for my agency. I just spin up a site on Cloudways and I've got my, my page builder there, and we'll just start to lay out elements and we'll start to write copy and build in real time. And it feels a lot more real than, let's say, opening up a Google Doc and, highlighting and making some, headers or whatever. And it's a really plain looking document. When we actually build the website in real time in front of people, it really just opens their eyes to what's possible. And so I think overall, right, well, there are some downsides, or at least some perceived downsides of page builders. I think this is a concept that should be embraced by agency owners all over the world. Help empower your clients more, create new workflows from within your agency to deliver results faster. So I think it's all a big plus. So those are just some thoughts I have. Obviously, I'm not here today to discuss this with you guys, so please pick it apart, have some fun, and I love hanging out with you all. Until next time, I'm Brent Weaver.
Thank you, Brent. That so felt like the Oscars. Now, folks, what I'd really love before we kind of deep dive into our conversation and also pick out some of the stuff that Brent shared in there, can we all just share what our own experiences of page builders are, just so that we can give people a little bit of context as to where we're all coming from? Can we start with you, Jan?
Sure thing. So I had similar worries about page builders, as you mentioned earlier, that it's a little bit like cheating. And I have a WordPress development background myself too. And I was like, is the code up to par with what I want to have on the website? Will it be bloated? Will it be accessible? And all those things. And what I've seen that I have to confess, I have resorted in using Elementor, which I know is Peter's probably most hated page builder, and we can get into that. But for me, it works really well, and the code isn't great, of course. And there's no beating around the bush here. It's bloated, but you can make it work reasonably fast. And right now, we use it for all the virtual summits that we build for our clients. We have the templates laid out. It's super easy, as Brent said, to spin up a site, to clone layouts. And when our clients want to update copy, there is a module in the Pro version of Elementor that logs changing the layout so that people can just exchange the content and update the content. Mm-hmm. And that for us is a game changer, and it truly empowers the customers that we work with.
That's awesome. And Peter, what's your experiences?
You're muted.
Here we are. I'm a designer, so you may think that I started with page builders, but actually I'll surprise you and I'll tell you that I didn't. When I first started making websites, I was trying, because I am a perfectionist, so I did learn how to build a page and how to style it. And I was using Genesis when I started, and I looked down on page builders and I just wouldn't use them. So and then I sort of changed my mind slightly, because I started using Beaver Builder, which I am told is still one of the cleanest. I mean, again, of course, yeah, it is a page builder, so it's not as good as it would be if it were all hand-coded. But I'm told by people who know better than me, such as you developers, that is still one of the cleanest and the best that you can use. And I was never worried, as Brent says, that people were worried that suddenly clients would build their own sites, but I wasn't, because drag and drop design tools have always existed. InDesign is a drag and drop design tool. Clients can't use it. The tool does not make the designer. So I never thought page builders are going to make the designers or the developers work redundant. Not at all. What it does do is what everyone has said so far, is that it gives you the opportunity to give clients a layout that they can work with. And then when they break it or mess it up, then that's when they call you. So that's also good. But yeah, locking layouts is really good, and getting clients to just change the content in a way that they understand. And there's one further use that I think is really great, is when for smaller projects where you can't really do a wireframing because it would be overkill because their budget doesn't stretch to it, but you can do an interactive prototype with a page builder. And you can also, which is something I've done with a few really small projects recently, you start with content. You just show the client on a real live page which content goes where, and they understand it. They think, okay, great. So that would be my heading. That would be my paragraphs. And this way you can design, you can do content-led design with a page builder. So there is and you can build design systems with page builders. You can have not just style guides, but like libraries of elements that clients can repeat. And this is a way that really helps them not break their sites and keep the consistency, which is an issue otherwise.
For myself, guys, my experience back in the late 90s was I used to build websites from scratch using Notepad. I was quite proud of that and actually was able to make a relatively good living. I lodged at a friend's house, 200 quid a month, and all the other cash I made through building websites for local businesses was spent impressing my then girlfriend, who is now my wife. However, for me, the experience was really negative. Front page 2000, I think, or something like that, from Microsoft came out. People started building their own websites. In fact, on the cover of PC Format, I think it was, and the .NET magazine, website building tools began to be freely available. So for me, who was a developer rather than a designer, that is Peach's experience, I really struggled. I couldn't design great looking websites, but I could certainly build them. But my skill set seemed to disappear overnight. I ended up working in security and in IT for years, feeling really jaded because my very first foray into web development had been stolen from me, it felt, because of what I perceived to be page builders or WYSIWYG content. So it was many years later, in 2007 approximately, when we started rocking with WordPress in an agency that I joined. And we've since then built a platform for event organizers, allowing them to run their events online. And in about 2012, I think it was, we started introducing the visual page builder element. And when we did that, things absolutely skyrocketed. And we currently power hundreds of events all around the world, which is phenomenal. But I certainly still have a love-hate relationship, which I think is going to come out during this conversation. Now, right at the very beginning, guys, I said, is it cheating? And Peacher, you were very vocal, so let's go for you. Is it cheating using a page builder?
No, it's a design tool, and it's just there are design tools. I don't think it is. And then on the other hand, I could say, yeah, absolutely, it is. I also agree with you. I agree with you, and I think that in an ideal world, all websites should be hand coded, but then, all clothes should be hand stitched by a tailor.
Good point.
And they're not. So it's just the reality of things. And so I have to say, I agree. It is a little bit cheating, but my God, it makes our lives so much easier. And also because these days, Beaver Builder with Beaver Themer, and I think Elementor has its own version and so on. It allows for full site editing. It's been available for a long time. And that was one of my frustrations as a designer with WordPress, because I wasn't able to do full site editing but I can with Beaver Themer and things like that. And now it's going to be available in WordPress as a whole. So I think it's cheating, but I accept it as a very convenient and not so dishonorable form of cheating.
Sure. I think for me, where I struggle as a developer still, obviously I got burnt many years ago and I'm still kind of struggling with that.
Oh, Lee, we
equally,
really felt for you.
Equally, thank you. Equally, there is a concern for me that an agency may rely on a tool like Beaver Themer and not necessarily understand what's behind it. So if Beaver Themer was to disappear overnight, or there was to be a big bug, there is then this huge reliance on the plugin developer rather than the team within an agency understanding how to use it. So for us in Event Engine, we've used Beaver Builder over the years, but we've developed our own modules. We understand fully how the code works. We've actually fixed bugs for ourselves and sent them in to let them know that certain things haven't worked. So we've kind of felt safe and secure in using it in that kind of environment. So for us, it's felt less like cheating because we're using a framework to provide an amazing tool for our clients. For general day-to-day web builds, if an agency, in my opinion, has very limited development experience, it becomes a little bit of a worry. But you could then flip that, couldn't you, and say, well, hey, Mac OS might crash and I don't know how to fix the operating system, or Windows or any other tool. So I don't know whether my specific worry is valid or whether this kind of really does stem into those 90s. Go for it, Jan.
Yeah, I think it is, and I don't see page builders as cheating, because I see them just like a tool in a toolkit. I mean, Cloudways would be cheating too, because you don't have to set up your own server, you don't have to manage the server and all that stuff. So I think it's just I think it's just a tool that helps us run our businesses more effectively. But you've made a brilliant point, Lee, in that we have to be careful what we depend on for our business. So if, for example, the licensing changes, it doesn't even need to be a technical bug, but I think Elementor recently changed their licensing and they gone away with their unlimited offer, and now they have 1,000 pages. So I mean that's still
1,000 sites.
Is 1,000 sites.
Yeah.
It's still fairly unlimited, and if you can't make 1,000 sites pay for the licensing fee, you're doing something wrong. But it's still something that is out of our control as a business owner, and so we have to be very mindful about that fact. And the one thing I am afraid of is when at some point a page builder we use isn't available anymore, or they change something that we cannot stand behind, or that just renders it unusable, and you've built, let's say, 100 customer websites on that. You need to have a process on handling this situation. Then what are you going to do? Do you rebuild 100 websites into a different page builder? Do you write a tool that extracts all the shortcodes that a page builder potentially uses? When I look at, I think, Visual Composer and Thrive Architect, they rely on shortcodes. Do you transcribe those shortcodes automatically and rebuild them in Gutenberg or something like that? That's a serious challenge that I think we have to be aware of.
Absolutely. I remember a story of an agency owner who built, I think, up to 100 websites on the platform that Adobe had a few years ago. And then Adobe announced that they were closing down the support of it, etc. So it was going to be something that these 100 websites wouldn't ever be able to use again. Now, they obviously had to go through a process of explaining to their clients over time that the architecture they were using was out of date and they were going to need to invest in some new architecture. So that kind of made sense. And thankfully, it was a very, very long lead time, enough I think it was in the years lead time to allow them to slowly transition people over to WordPress and do that when it was the kind of next iteration, when they were due for their redesign phase. But you're absolutely right. If suddenly a support is pulled, it's kind of scary. Although with WordPress and the amazing community of its open source code, etc., there are bound to be people out there who will support just via the communities alone. Say, hey, I've got a problem with I know Elementor here, or whichever page builder I'm using. There are people that do help.
Well, but if you think about it, though, I mean, WordPress is a huge, you can't even call it a microcosm because it's really big now. Yeah. But at the same time, it could all disappear. We are using a framework with WordPress. It's not ours. It could be, it's not, you're not building a website up from scratch with WordPress. You're not.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's already... it's a risk that you're always slightly running. And now Webflow, our friend Dave Foy has moved to Webflow from WordPress. Webflow is another platform. It could be if it's taken away, if they fold, or if they decide, right, we want to go, raise goats on a mountain, then that's it. You've lost.
I think that risk is higher when you use a platform like Webflow, though, compared to WordPress, because the files you have on the server won't go away. So you probably just don't receive any updates anymore for it.
And then there is the community. So look at, is it Classic Press? I think is a community of people that do not want to have Gutenberg. of which I've had to transfer one or two of my sites across because clients have refused to have Gutenberg and have older plugins that won't support it. And that's an entire open source ecosystem, as it were, where they're maintaining that, and there are enough people involved to keep that relatively up to date. So I guess there's always ways of looking after yourself with WordPress versus like Webflow. If they were to switch the lights off overnight, that's everything gone, isn't it?
Yeah. So what are then the use cases for page builders? What is the scenario that you guys think page builders are a valid choice?
Well, I have an interesting point in this because I am currently leading the UX team for the rebuild of the website for an Italian museum. And I am not building it. There's a development agency who's going to do it, and they sound like really great guys. And we've had conversations about it because the issue in this case is it's a big site because they have a huge archive. All their works of art also are digitally archived. There needs to be access. It's going to be a research tool for experts and so on. But at the same time, it's going to have to be. There's events that they set up, so the staff are going to be using this website all the time, and there's going to be a front end that needs to be dynamic and so on. So the issue was we need to create templates that we train staff to use and that they find easy to use, and they always have a template for each need, each use case scenario. And so what do we use? I mean, obviously we're going to use a page builder, but which one are we going to use? And the team got back to me saying that they think that in this case, Gutenberg would be the best option. I confessed to them, I know, controversial. I confessed, and I publicly confess that because I am not really building sites anymore. I build my own sites, but I don't really build sites, as it were. For clients, I do something different these days, but I have not really used Gutenberg because I don't need to, and because I'm so used to Beaver Builder, I just go ahead and use that. So, what do you guys think? Yeah.
So, I initially did like Gutenberg because I could see some development use cases, especially for things like form building and query building. So using the interface more programmatically. But I've struggled with Gutenberg, and so have our clients, to be honest, to try and create anything that looks like a website. And I know it is changing over time, but I think my opinion is that WordPress should focus on being really good at WordPress, as in, the base fast operating system that it is, CMS, not operating system, but that, say, Elementor or Beaver Builder or Oxygen or all these other platforms, they can focus on doing page building really well, I think, in my opinion. Use case-wise, though, for us, the perfect use case I think you alluded to earlier, Peacher, was really like the MVP or the lower budget site. A page builder is perfect for that. You can spark up a site very quickly. You can use templates. You can visually design an entire site without even touching, say, Photoshop, etc., and it's already built. So for me, I think minimum viable product, low budget, or areas such as landing pages, etc., where you want to be able to spark up very quick landing pages to test ideas. I think they would certainly be good use cases. I also, though, believe there are a lot of areas where there shouldn't be, which I think we should touch on in a minute. But have you got any examples as well, Jan, of good use cases?
Yeah, for me, it's very similar to what Peter was saying about the museum project. It's all about replicating layouts in the scope that we use. And for that, we have pre-built templates that we exported into JSON or XML or whatever, and that our clients can just import to their websites. Students in the course can import them automatically, and that is like super convenient for us. We have not defined the page builder in our VSM community, though. So we support Elementor, Divi, Gutenberg, blah blah blah, because we want to give people the choice. And I would love, Peter, for you to explain why Gutenberg would be the best fit. I mean, there's controversial, and you've seen the reactions of Lee and myself. We both don't like Gutenberg,
Which
so.
it worries me because there's a technical team developers team on board. When I speak to them, they're really good people. They really persuaded me that they're on top of everything and that they know what they're doing. So it's not they would listen to me. They're very, it's not a problem. But when they said that, I thought, okay, I'll trust you because I don't know enough about Gutenberg. So your reaction worries me because it's not.
Maybe
I'm a snob. Remember,
we don't have experience with Gutenberg.
And frankly, I did say, didn't I fell in love with it initially, especially combined with ACF Pro, because you could build layouts and do all sorts, and we actually used it initially. So if an agency that you're working with has deep dived and they know all about it, they can probably create something exceptionally powerful, and it's going to be supported for years to come by the WordPress community. So it sounds like a great idea. So don't worry. I worry because I'm a snob and I like my Beaver Builder, and I feel that WordPress have overreached. But that's just me.
But that was always my feeling. That was my thought and my feeling. The first time I used it, I was like, no. Yeah. But that was when it first came out, which was very controversial at the time it came out. It probably came out too early and all the rest of it. So because I trust these people, they really made me think that they know what they're doing, and they showed me other websites that they've built with Gutenberg. And their reasoning was precisely, we don't want the client to have to even go into a page builder in the front end. We want the staff to have everything in the back end. They can see it visually, but they can't really break it, and they're going to find it really easy to deal with this.
That's good. And
they said, we can do all sorts of layouts. They showed me all the layouts that they would create. And so they persuaded me for that reason. So, and I'm not the one who's going to have to work with it. I can't impose my preference for Beaver Builder because they are building the site and someone else will be updating it. It's not going to be me. So even though I'm leading the project, I'm not going to impose my view because that would be just wrong. And I just have to trust them.
It sounds like they go for the right reasons, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like they used to use another builder, not Beaver, but another good one. I can't remember which one. And they said, now we just find, and their reasoning is precisely that one. Rather than rely on a third party that's paid for and that might disappear any day if they, go and sell necklaces on a beach, as opposed to goats, then we don't.
How many examples have you got? Have you got quite a few of these?
I'd rather, personally, I'd prefer the necklaces to the goats because I like being on beaches. But yeah, that's why. But they gave me that reason as the main reason, and that's what you mentioned as well. So it sounds like it's a sound reason. Yeah. It'd be very interesting. It'd be very interesting to hear from the audience what they think, whether they're using Gutenberg, whether they've abandoned page builders in favor of Gutenberg. Personally, I think the page builders will stay for a while longer. I hope forever. But let's see what people say, if there are people who have done the same.
Gutenberg can be classed as a page builder, as an inbuilt page builder, and started off very differently to how we're all used to it. We're used to front-end page builders, aren't we? Or the Divi block kind of system back in the day. So Gutenberg's kind of that hybrid. And some people don't recognize it as a page builder. So that's another question to throw in to the audience. Do you recognize Gutenberg as a page builder? Let us know.
Yeah, very good one.
Right. Well, next question then, guys. Peacher, do you want to hit us with it?
Yeah. So when should you not use a page builder? Is that there?
Yes. That's what we're lined up for.
I got one.
I think we've all got examples, but Jan, go first.
I won't use it on a blog or on podcast archives or something that. And there's very simple layouts. I would much rather use the default editor, maybe even Gutenberg, because it's easy to use for those simple layouts. Build it with that and save me the bloat.
Absolutely. Well, mine's less of a use case and more of who, I think. And it should be that we wouldn't give a client, and this is strange given what my entire business is based on, but we wouldn't give a web client full access to a page builder for a start off, because the design gets absolutely butchered. You did reference earlier there, Jan, that you can lock design elements in place. I'm fairly sure you can do something like that as well with Beaver Builder, not as though I've ever
Pretty
tried.
sure, yeah.
What we tended to do is create the ACF custom fields, etc., and then give them a customized control panel in WP Admin for them to fill in the blanks, so that every time it will always look the same. Or we would ask them to brief us in, and we would simply use the page builder as the design tool to lay out the new page. So we were using it more internally as the tool, like Peter was referencing. So that's the first thing. We rarely would give clients access to that. Then the only time we would give them access is if we've given them some templates, that we've a different type of contract, maybe it's more budget focused, etc., and they're going to be using some pre-made templates and getting people like Peter involved to give them awesome design consultancy. I guess the other place I wouldn't be using, or another use case for page builders, would be a larger corporate site. So we've built a lot of those in the past, and with page builders, kind of the negatives there are they can be a little bit bloated. You have a little less control over the code. Their interfaces change quite a lot. So Beaver Builder, for example, went from one version to another. And if you are running a large enterprise business, you're trying to train everybody inside of that company, give people different levels of access. You want the site to be fast. You don't want the user experience to keep changing, or new features to pop up, or nag screens, etc. Then I think there is an argument on those larger, wider spread sites that page builders, and perhaps even sometimes not even WordPress, is actually a good fit for those kind of projects. But that really would depend, I think, on the need of the business. So for example, we've built Python-based websites where we've given very specific, non-changing, non-drag and droppable forms for clients to fill in the content, and they know they're going to have the exact same experience for each different department. So I think that's another area that we should look at, or that we would do. How about yourself, Peter?
Yeah, I agree, Lee, and I think it's the case of the museum that I just mentioned is a little bit a case in hand, because it's a really big site, really big, and I think that there's, rather than building, it needs to be a CMS. So rather than building your own CMS, you use WordPress, but it's important, I think, that we are independent from a page builder rather than using a page builder. So that's why when the Gutenberg option was presented to me, I actually really did see the point. And there are other big websites that I was involved with where it just doesn't make any sense. It's much tidier to actually create, identify the type of templates that you need and create a template for that. That stuff can't change, because otherwise it can spiral out of control really easily. Sometimes I think that my own website should be like that, because then I don't have the temptation to keep tweaking things.
You have time to work on your own website. Good for you.
No, I don't. I wish. My peachanary.com website, I'm thinking of actually, I should take it. Doesn't represent me to a point where I should actually take it down entirely. So no, that's the answer. That's the answer. No, I don't.
I was worried a bit that you were bored, but sounds like you aren't.
I wish.
I love it. So we've talked about the love-hate relationship with Gutenberg, and we've thrown all sorts of page builders around in this conversation. How do you pick the one that you actually go with?
Peter, do you want to answer that one from a design stance, and then I'll follow up from a developer stance?
Yeah. From a design stance, I went for I chose Beaver Builder for two reasons, and I don't really use any other one. One is that all my developer friends kept telling me that Beaver Builder was the best one, and I listened to people who know better than me. And then I did try and use other ones, and they all had a learning curve. I have been using design tools since the early 90s, mid 90s. I've taught Photoshop. I'm a power user. I mean, Illustrator, is there any program that's more difficult than Illustrator? After Effects, I can even use After Effects. I mean, I avoid it, but I can if I have to. So a design tool for, a page builder I should be opening it and using it. That's what happened with Beaver Builder. I actually then realized that if I do look for tutorials, I would find things that I didn't know existed. Like, for instance, the use of categories in Beaver Builder, specific categories specific to Beaver Builder, allows you to order your saved modules in a way that blew my mind entirely. Actually, I did a talk on this for Page Builder Summit. A part of the talk was about that, and it's brilliant because that means you can build libraries and design systems within your own website. So that's great. But otherwise, I just opened it the first time and I was designing away without needing to look at anything. I have tried other ones and I was like, what? How do I do that? Really simple things that in Beaver Builder are completely intuitive. I couldn't find how to do them in other ones. And then I asked friends who were experts in that particular page builder. They were like, oh yeah, there's a learning curve. You need to watch a course. And I was like, no, I'm not watching a course. Thank you very much. And that made me think, no, yeah, that's my choice. And to be honest, also another reason why I really like Beaver Builder is that they focus on the right things when they improve the tool. They don't do things like animations. I really think that page builders should refrain from doing that because they just encourage people to do things that are inaccessible, not accessible, completely pointless. They, make the site bloated, slower, and the UX goes out of the window and accessibility goes out of the window. So that's the flashy bit that people say, oh, this or the other page builder is fantastic because it makes me, it makes things fly across the page. And I go, no, that's exactly what you shouldn't do. So yeah, that's how I made my choice. And unless something goes terribly wrong, I do not have time. Why would I go anywhere else? That's my main point. I go somewhere else when I work with a team that gives me good reasons, which is what happened with the Gutenberg story.
Yeah. That's really good, and I do agree that for me as well, Beaver Builder was certainly one of those that was the most intuitive, worked like I think, and worked as I think a designer would work. For us guys, our choices are a little different, and I think we would probably reflect the agency that you explained in your project there, Peacher, where we do have to make a choice depending on the project. So for kind of a design-led, so that's where the designer is leading and does need things like animations, etc. We would tend to pick Elementor for a whole load of reasons. Also, for a marketing-led project, very often Elementor tends to be the direction that some people want to go in because there's a whole load of inbuilt marketing tools, etc. That just throw in loads of extra concerns as well. But Elementor is a big, strong product out there and certainly is more attractive to the design or the marketing-led experiences that we've had. For us as developers, if we need something that has templates that's more theme focused and theme building focused, then we would select something like Beaver Builder because it's got the Beaver themer in there, and again, very intuitive, very easy to use. But there are others as well, especially things like I think his Oxygen is a headless setup, so it's ridiculously fast. So if you're looking for something that combines the best of all worlds and gives you a fast framework for developing epically quick websites, etc., then there's all sorts of other directions that people can go. Is it Oxygen or something else? I don't know what the name is. But
I think it's not headless, but Cloudways has a fantastic blog article about the page builder speed comparison.
Drop that in there.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
Speed is ridiculous.
Yeah, and Oxygen is in there, and it's like, I think it is the fastest of the 7 page builders tested, and that is why I'm personally really tempted to try Oxygen, but I don't have the time for it. I'm really like scratching grinding my teeth because I want to try it. But for me, I'm stuck with Elementor right now. It's what I
mouth
used
guard
for
for you
the
if you need
first
it.
time.
I
Love
grind
it.
my teeth too. So whenever I get Elementor, and it goes.
Charming.
I love
So
it.
one thing that I want to say also is that what I don't find intuitive, maybe someone else does. So that's why it's great that there is such a wide variety of tools out there, because I have my reasons for preferring a certain tool. Maybe I'll change my mind about it, or maybe someone else much prefers Elementor, for instance, or Divi for their own reasons. So it doesn't mean that it's, that's why it's great, because every preference is answered in the marketplace. So that's really great.
Yeah. I think it boils down to an individual decision. Like Lee was pointing out, what type of project do I have at hand? But then also, what type of capability do I have in-house in my agency? What tools am I used to? What are the requirements? Is the client involved or not? So I don't think there's this one-size-fits-all answer for that.
That's awesome. Well, folks, this has been phenomenal. We're nearly at our time. Let us know how you feel about the big questions such as Gutenberg. Is Gutenberg a page builder? Should it be used? Have WordPress gone in the wrong direction? Let us also know, do you value Elementor more than Beaver Builder or Oxygen? Why do you use your page builders? Speaking of community, Jan, can you just tell us a little bit about the app community? And then I'd just like to do a little bit of a sum up.
For sure. So Cloudways has built this agency partner program. So if you are an agency hosting with WordPress already, you have access to an amazing community where you don't just get featured on their blog, which is, I think, 250, 300,000 people a month. So it's quite an SEO value and obviously exposure too, but you get all sorts of bonuses, included premium support, including trainings. Pecha has done a lot of work in the app program itself as well, and conceptualizing and strategizing and making sure that the contents you receive in that program really help you elevate the brand, elevate the business that you are running. And Cloudways wants to be that strategic partner. So cloudways.com/en/agency. We need to work on the short link, I guess. But other than that, it is a really good program. So that's enough pitching for us. But I highly recommend you check it out if you are with Cloudways already.
So, folks, I'm always tasked with doing the general wrap-up of any sort of interview that we do. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have to try and convert everything I hear into a tweet so that I will understand it. But I think what we're saying as a whole is that using a page builder is definitely not cheating, because it is the tool that you are using, just like the operating system on your computer, just like the engine in your car, etc. These are all tools that have been developed, and it's actually what we produce that is of value. I remember years ago, I had a podcast episode with a chap very early on in the page builder cycle, and he said it doesn't matter how you build the website as long as you are providing the end value. Your client doesn't care if you hand coded it in Notepad or used any one of the page builders that we've mentioned today. What's important is the value that you provide as an agency. So I think on that, we can safely say that page builders are here to stay. Gutenberg is probably here to stay too, as will be the lovers and the haters. And finally, that there are always circumstances where a page builder is or isn't required. Let us know. This is an awesome conversation. All that's left for us to do is find out how to connect with each one of us. Pecha, how do we connect with you?
On LinkedIn, Pecha Neri. And I lurk on Twitter. I'm there, and my handle is Pecha. And that's it, kind of, these days. I'm largely off Facebook. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I too am off most social media nowadays because I'm getting old and tired. So just connect on agencytrailblazer.com. And Jan?
For me, it's Twitter. I actually fell in love with it again. So I am Jan Koch on Twitter.
Awesome. Folks, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the summit.
And big kudos to Nathan and Anshin, by the way, for organizing this. It has been a stellar event. Great job.
Let's
yes, thank you.
Yeah, I said that.